Hi friends! We're diving into Patrick Ta's latest and greatest major dimension eyeshadow palette, but first, hi, I'm Alicia. If it's your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on my video. And if you are returning, well, thank you for visiting me again. Kinky Sweat stands for my kinky hair and sweat life. I am a fitness professional who loves things all movement and beauty. If you want to check out what I do in between the makeups, you can head over to my Instagram. All timestamps will be down below, divided by palette details, swatches, and demos if you wish to skip over to a specific portion of the video. I tried my hardest to resist this. I did. Hard enough? I don't know. I was wooed by the reviews and pretty much how, well, I'm on Sephora.com. We're looking at 5 stars full at 148 reviews. This just dropped on the 3rd, I believe. It is sold on PatrickTA.com as well as Sephora and Cult Beauty. It dropped on the 4th at Sephora and Cult Beauty. I am familiar with Patrick Ta's brand. I didn't dive deeply into it when he first released his Glow products, as I did buy products that released after that launch. The major headlines, here we go, Double Take Cream and Powder Blush, as well as his recent Cream Contour and Powder Bronzer Duo. I rather love these products and I have them on standby because, you know, we'll have a Patrick Ta moment. And the reason why I resisted getting this eyeshadow palette is because it's the age-old argument we always use to keep ourselves from buying more and more and more. We have those shades. We have the shades. But it seems like there was something special about this presentation. I had already used it. I didn't realize that it came with cream shadow. So why don't we go into the product details now? We're looking at 12 eyeshadows total, 2 creams, and 10 different finishes, priced at $68. That's expensive for 12 pan shadows, but Pat charges $125 for 10. So I think this is slightly more than middle of the road, like more than Urban Decay, but not as much as Pat or Natasha Denona. A versatile eyeshadow palette that contains 2 luminous cream bases, velvety matte, and iridescent metallic eyeshadows, and glistening pearl toppers. One of Patrick Ta's signature techniques for creating his naturally contoured glowing looks is to artfully layer creams and powders. That makes sense, as the contour and blush products have a powder and cream product in the same palette. The beautifully blendable shadows and creams in this collection allow you to create the most striking multi-dimensional looks with just one palette. Wear each shade alone or layer, blend, and contour to create the most multi-dimensional, yes, we know, looks that go from day to night. The cream bases allow you to really sculpt and intensify your eye looks. For the powder shadows, 1.8 grams. For the creams, 1.8 grams for each pan. Patrick also released 4 gel liners. I did not pick those up. I try to hold back. And these liners came in a cream beige shade, a rich brown, black, and deep bronze shade. I almost got the bronze. The bronze looked really nice. They all look beautiful in terms of texture just from the photograph alone. I might end up getting it. I've been using Pat's shade and Black Coffee a lot, so I wanted to make a dent on those before I dive into another eye pencil just yet. I also viewed a video of Patrick Ta talking about his palette, and he had said that the 2 creams are formulated to be layered under or over powder. So that makes for really nice versatility, as we are usually encouraged to use creams first and then with powders, but it seems that this formula is very flexible in that you can layer them in any which way, and I would only think that will make it seamless for a beginner to use who's not really too sure with what formula they should go in with first. It looks like no matter how you do it, you will have a beautiful eye look. Now here is the palette design, very consistent with, of course, his smaller compacts, with the cheek products, that the bronzer and contour one there, the rose gold mirrored finish. You have a physical closure here, and you have the pan shade names on the back, as well as a few more details, a 12-month suggested shelf life, and this palette is made in the USA. First up, we have Lady, one of the cream shades, which is divided by this convenient plastic flap here. It's like a neutral brown shade, and it feels consistent with his previous cream products. It's emollient but not overly slippy. It seems like it has really nice grip. Next up we have Woman, the darker of the cream shades, and this is a true deep neutral brown. Exquisite, what looks to be a bronze metallic shade with beautiful pink flecks in the formula. Matte number 1, we have Scandal, a deep neutral brown matte. The textures of these, very nice. Here I think is an iridescent shade. This is called Legendary. Has a beautifully shiny texture. And this is like a copper bronze with beautiful sparkle here. You could apply this solo, or you could use it lightly to tap over any of the, like for instance, this metallic shade here, if you wanted a little more pop and dimension. It's so shiny. It has a beautiful glass effect, and this one in particular has some like pink and gold flecks in the formula. Second matte we have Absolutely, which is more of a reddish brown tone matte brown. How many times do you have to say brown, friend? Next up we have Lavish, which is a caramel beige matte with sparkles in there. The base is matte, but you have like light gold flecks there if you wanted to apply the shade solo without any other metallics, but still have a little bit of twinkle with the matte base. True matte number 3, we have Mother, traditional caramel brown transition shade, beautiful, leaning a little peach, which you know I love. And here's the second of that metallic formula. We have Exquisite, beautiful shade, is so bright, very shiny. Is more so like on that leaning a little more silver, but it has a beige pink base. My bad, this is Opulence. I was reading it backwards. I'm so sorry. Now we have Transition, which is a lighter beige shade that could be used if you are lighter than me as a transition, or if you're deeper than me, maybe a standout lid matte color, or even something you can put on the inner corner for a matte highlight moment. And last of the iridescent shades, we have Abundance. This is like the shiny one that has a little more silver in it. It's, I think, a truer like gold champagne shade. So pretty, and you could actually layer that on any of the metallics here if you wanted to put it on that more pinky bronze iridescent shade. Oh my goodness. And lastly we have Divine, which is a matte base with some sparkles, and the sparkles tough to see on camera, but it has like gold champagne sparkles in there, again in the same manner that you could possibly use that other matte base sparkly shade all over the lid if you want a little more twinkle. So these are the swatches for Major Dimension, Patrick Ta's newest eyeshadow palette. Again, shade wise, we've seen these before. I think, however, the nuance lives in the tones of the shadows and how it's curated. Also, the fact that Patrick included 2 creams in here that allow one to really build up the layers of color, to amplify them, to maybe, yes, add that nice texture that only creams can achieve. Powders I love, but sometimes if you want more of like that luminous natural skin finish even on your lid, you sometimes have to rely on a cream. And I think a really nice opportunity to build up the color and the depth here when you start with the cream and go ahead and layer with the powder afterwards. Now before we move on, that's enough. I wanted to apply a little bit of the cream contour shade. This is in She Sculpted, the more medium tone out of the 3 palettes. Going in first with the contour shade, using the Spectrum and Katie Jane hues, synthetic stippling. I said stipling once. I don't know if that was actually the right way to pronounce it. I'm sorry. On both sides here, just like a light serving of it, if you will. And if I want it more depth, I will go in with a denser brush, but this is good for now. Now with the Chikuhodo GSN 03 with the powder bronzer shade, whipping that right on top of the cream contour. And again, we could suspect that a similar layering will happen with the shadows, that even though you're layering the powder over a cream, it's not going to muddy up or look textured on the skin. Because the color curation of the eyeshadow palette is so bronzy brown, well, also I couldn't find my other blush palette. This is She's So LA, which is more of the bronzy tone of the cream. So what Patrick likes to do first is to go in with the powder on the cheeks, and then he follows with the cream, which was what actually I didn't suspect one would do when encountering this product. I usually go in with cream first, but he formulates it so that your cream goes on first in terms of the blush palettes anyway. So that's She's So LA on the cheeks, and this is a Wayne Goss number 2 brush from his most recent Goss edit. I still have on deck. I've been still editing that video. I have so many demos on that video, that's why it's taken me forever to edit. All right, complexion is done, but I think we still can come in a little closer. Okay, eyes are primed, and I actually want to go in with one of the creams first. So let's go in with Lady, which so nice to have these Katie Jane Hue brushes. They're all synthetic, which I think mighty appropriate for this texture. This is the number 7 brush. It's a packing brush, but quite wide. It has a little bit of width and has a little bit of girth, you know. I'm placing that on the outer V of this eye, and already it's giving me really nice tone and shape. I can solely rely on this shade as the standout eyeshadow color if I wanted to do one look, you know, because it's already given me some contouring, if you will. Now I took it up a little high, so going in with the Katie Jane Hue 19 brush. This is a blending brush. Just taking the edges here and diffusing them so they are a little, what is that here? So they are a little smoother, and I'm using my finger to kind of pull out that blend a little bit. Now with a natural hair brush, this is my Rephr 27 Chikuhodo Goat Undyed, which technically I can use with the creams as well. If it's a natural brush, as long as it's undyed, it is suitable to use with creams. I haven't been really using my Katie Jane eye brushes, so I'm trying to, you know, get into it. We could follow up with one of the metallic shades. We could also try to see how one of these powders do over the cream. And as suspected, because the cream dries down to a really nice natural finish, that it's smooth to apply the powder on. So I'm taking this shade here, which I believe is Absolutely, to give the cream a little more, and also maybe if you wanted to set it as well. So that's really nice layering, did not muddy up, looks pretty consistent on the crease. Now taking Exquisite, this gorgeous bronze metallic shade that has lovely shine, placing that on my finger and on the majority of the lid here. I want to take it up in towards the crease so it could mold into that cream and powder matte shade we applied. I have my concealer brush on standby that I used to blend out my concealer with today to lightly blend the edges there because it got a little low, but that's okay. I also want to go in, well, you know what? Let's try this shade. This is the shade with the matte base and the sparkles in there. I want to see how it will do on the inner part of the eye. Not as the main stage highlight shade, but more so on the higher part of the inner corner. So it gives a little sparkle. I also want to try this shade. It picks up nicely with the finger, but I want to see with the brush. Oh, that's beautiful. I like it. Now this is a Kyureido. I believe this is the... is it the Miyabi? This is a sable brush, which they are exquisite with these types of textures. The ones that are not your traditional metallic formula, that has a little more to it. But man, that was successful in picking up that shade. Again, we are looking at Opulence. I'm going to pull Opulence a little lower here on the inner part of my lower lash line to make it whoop, swoop down. Taking the same sable brush, but with Lady, going back here and pulling that cream color along the lower lash line. I'm going to see if we can complete this eye look, kind of wrap it around and combine it here at the tippity top. I also want to see, and in this case, I'll use a smaller brush to achieve this with. This is a tiny Surratt eyeshadow brush, but going into Scandal, the darkest matte brown here in the palette, and I am nudging that along my top lash line. This will be a great opportunity to invite an actual liner if you wanted a little more depth, if you wanted to build a little more depth and intensity along the lash line. If you had also purchased Patrick Ta's gel liners, you can probably either use rich brown or black along the lash line and then follow with this brown matte to not necessarily having to set, because Patrick did mention that the gel liners set down pretty well after you blending them out. So you got to make sure if you are using them to move quickly. But that dark brown shade all on its own gave me really nice shadowing. Yes. Number 2, I think, I kind of want to see what this does on its own. So you know what? I'll go back into Katie Jane Hughes' brush. The Spectrum Collab 07, now with Woman. Now that I use Lady, I'm going to be a little more careful with how I place that shade. I want to keep it low because I want to actually apply another powder here. But here's the thing. This is where I gotta be careful with this shade. I don't want it to climb too high, you know what I mean? Going in with the Spectrum in KJH 13, without any additional product, I'm using the dome shape to just whip that color in and around the crease. Tapping a little bit, just a little bit of Woman here. Because I'm trying to create these brackets to set up the powder matte. Just a little whipping, just a little whip. Okay, going in with Mother. This is the more reddish brown shade that I think will look mighty nice on top of Woman. Rephr 27 again, but packing down first. I'm placing the color there so it could just stick, you know, and I think that's a really nice combination, that the reddish brown tone of Mother. Is that Mother? No, I'm a liar. No, I'm not a liar. You remember, Alicia. Give yourself more credit. Of Mother over Woman. Because that death from Woman gave it a little bit of oomph. If you wanted this shade to look more exclusively like its red-brown offering, then I would just go into it without the cream. Using very light pressure just to blend this out. Not over manipulating the product. But you see here, and actually, let's try it. I'm going back in with Woman, but on top of the powder matte. So if you needed to go back in with the cream color, but you feared that you would end up with a muddy blend, again, as promised by Patrick himself, you can layer these in any which way and the texture will not look heavy on the lids. I definitely want to go in with Legendary. I think this is a really great formula for anyone who wanted a little more powwow. And you know, I'm going to bring up Pat's shade because I feel often people like to compare her actual shades to other similar moments that exist in palettes such as this one. This is easier to deal with than Pat's actual shades. Although I always recommend that you don't overload the application, that you just tap once. Whereas this one, you can get in the pan a little bit, pick up more product, and not fear it fall on your face. Now, I did get a little bit here, but that was just my own reckless application. I wasn't very careful with where my finger was It was touching stuff it wasn't supposed to. But that's gorgeous. So that was legendary. And just to show, if you wanted, you could go in with Opulence, the lighter here, and tap it down the center of the lid. And look how that really brought forward some shine and glisten to the eye. It looks wet. It looked like I used Fix Plus when I didn't. Okay. Back in with Woman, the cream base shade. Same 07 brush. Whipping that now on the lower lash line. Is this as smoky as we can go? Probably not if I wanted to. And for this, I'm actually going to use a smaller brush. This is my Rephr 28. It's like a fluffy pencil brush. But going in with Scandal, the dark brown powder matte, and tapping that more or less right on the outer part of the V. And, you know, this is practically blending itself. It already has a nice setup for Woman and Mother, so I don't have to really do much in manipulating this shadow. It just has, again, nice platform to work on, but taking a little bit on the tip of the brush and sweeping it on the outer portion of my lower lash line to complete that smoky blend, that smoky bracket. We're doing good. I want to add a little more of that dark brown shadow on this eye before we put on some lashes. So I'm grabbing my Rephr 23 brush. I want a little more intensity here so it could appear more distinct. This wing liner here. Yeah. Let's slap on some lashes and I'll be right back. A big massive truck decided to park right in front of my window. So if you hear the in the background, it's that truck. I realize we did not, I know, I'm including you in this, did not apply an inner corner highlight for this eye, so I figured let's go in with the matte base shade in Divine and use that. Ooh, that has really nice glow in comparison to the more iridescent finishes, which I feel have more twinkle and sparkle. This is more like a glow moment that not only I feel appropriate for the inner corner, but very appropriate for the brow bone, which I think more suitable. It has a luminous effect to it that I feel the more iridescent shade would overpower the role of the brow highlight, but that works. Apply Patrick Ta's lip liner in She's Bold and some lip gloss from Lisa Eldridge. I can't wait for that package to dispatch in Muse. And here's a close-up of the eyes. Here's our first eye using the Lady Cream with matte and bronzy metallic shade and the dark brown shadow liner. And here on this side we have the deeper shades and apply the dark matte brown on the outer corner, but also we did the reddish brown matte as well as the cream shadow in Woman to set up that really nice depth. And here's a wide shot of both looks with all complexion products on as well as lip. You know, before we go into the second round for demos, even using it yesterday, I immediately felt the ease. And I think that's really important because yes, we've seen these shades before. We have even seen some of these textures before. I don't quite remember where I've encountered this formula before. It's very familiar to me. It's not coming to mind at this moment. I have all these shades in some capacity, whether it be a single or in a palette. But what I think remarkable is that Patrick included cream shadows that delivered the depth without muddying up your shadow look, without just blending away. So you actually have some color here. And again, really nice that you can utilize that formula to amplify the powder shadows, or maybe just not rely on a powder shadow again for your eye look. If you want something more skin-like in finish, you can probably apply any of these cream shades as a one and done moment, lid, crease, and lower lash line. Even use your finger to blend out the edges so it can appear diffused, and that's really nice to just rely on if you don't want a super intense eye look, but you can then go in with the other iridescent shades. If you wanted to apply the cream on your lid, then you can tap any of these shades right down the center of it to create nice glow and twinkle, or maybe use any of the matte powders to apply on top of the cream shadow to have a matte eye look, but it look beautifully even and smooth, because again, from what I've experienced, that when you layer the powders over the creams, it doesn't look textured and heavy on the lids, and vice versa. If you decide to go in with the powder shadow first and then apply the cream shadow after, you'll be in good hands. You'll be fine. I'm enjoying this palette so far. Can't wait to get into demo 2. Maybe we'll go into the lighter shades since we went into the deeper shades here on this demo. So until then, let me take this off. I'll see you back here in a moment. Round 2. Well, I thought maybe we can see this shade in action, transition as it is. No, Alicia, you can't read. Absolutely. The backwards thing gets me, fam. Rephr 27 in with absolutely. The matte formula here is incredibly smooth, easy to blend, very not super. There is some kickback in the pan, but it just kind of lends to that really nice, soft, effortless blend that I think you'll experience here with this formula. And actually, I thought, why don't we go in with like a fluffy packer brush if I could find something like that. Here's my Houkodou. Man, I forgot the series name for this brush. I'm going in with this guy here. This is the matte with the sparkles all over the lid. Again, a really soft touch. You can see it's more of like a peachy beige color in contrast to the more caramel matte brown we applied through the crease. Let's take transition, but just a little higher over absolutely. You want it more of a diffusing look to the eye, you can go in with that shade. I kind of want to see, because this is, I think, very basic. If you just wanted this, you can definitely only rely on those 2 shades. But now I want to see, just for kicks, if we were to go in with the cream shade Lady, and I'm going in with the number 7 again and just lightly tap it on the outer V. So you can use the cream shade to get a little more depth, which I think nice to rely on if you don't want to use these shades here, the powder mattes. If you wanted something a little more low key but wanted to create that dimension, then you can rely on the cream shade. And I'm going to pull that under the lash line also, and then maybe absolutely over it. So that sounds funny. I'm gonna whip it out. All right, okay. Opulence with my sable brush on the inner part of the eye. I definitely want some sparkle still from the iridescent formula to be applied on my inner corner. I think, again, it's just such nice shine to have. If you want it more from the lid, then you can tap into any of these and it's gonna have really nice sticks. So if you want more of a wrong shade, more of a scatter effect, you can definitely achieve that. Maybe you actually wanted to apply a metallic shade over the cream shade. I'm gonna go in with the same brush, but now with this metallic and tap. And now the cream shade is going to have really nice grab if you wanted to apply that metallic shade on the outer corner instead of just relying on the cream color to have a little more shine. Why not? We could apply that same metallic shade on the lower outer part of the lash line, and I think it brings the look together beautifully. You don't have to solely rely on metallics to be just applied on the lid. You most certainly can use them on the outer part of the lid or on the lower lash line, wherever. Just cleaning up here a little bit. Perfect. Now, if you wanted to see what transition looks all on its own, if you're lighter than me, is going to show up more. And if you're deeper than me, then I would not rely on this for obvious reasons as a transition shade. I mean, it's very, if I just wanted like a barely there, contouring on the crease, then I'll go in with the transition shade, or to blend out any of the deeper powder mattes. At this point, however, I think I want to do this shade on the lid just to see how it will look. And it gives, again, really nice glow. So let me go back into my Houkodou brush to get a more precise placement here on the lid. So there we go. But I actually want to go in with so many choices. Let's tap into Abundance and go over Divine so we can have a little more shine, a little more sparkle. But I also now want to see how these cream shadows work if I wanted to apply it as a liner moment. So let's dive into a Katie Jane Hue brush. Oh yes, the truck is finally leaving. Thank God. Number 20, very small thin shader brush, now with Woman. See how that goes. I'm painting that along the lash line. Let's see how it works out if we wanted to rely on this texture for some lash line moments. And the mirror in here is great. Big mirror. I've been relying on it for both demos, and I can successfully do my eyes and see well. I'm not struggling whatsoever. The cream shadow for liner I think works very well because it's emollient, but again, not overly slippy. So I think I was able to create a pretty good wing from this formula. And if you wanted, we could use the same brush and maybe go in with the more reddish brown shade and tap over the cream so we could set it a little bit and maybe give it a little more depth of color so it could look more exclusively like that reddish brown liner, you know, making sure we're looking smooth here. Okay, not bad, not bad. My wing shapes are always hit or miss, but I think that's okay. And let's see here, what shall we apply on the inner corner? Well, you know what? Maybe we'll go in with the more pinky iridescent shade. Gonna tap that onto the inner corner, bringing up a little higher so it could overlap with that matte with sparkly base. I think it's Divine. And also the powder matte we applied in our crease. I'm gonna leave the lower lash line alone. I think, you don't need nothing there. We'll apply some mascara. All right, let's apply some lashes and I'll be right back. We're back with both eyes done. Chandelier lashes on, by the way, in style Lady Grace. And I slightly poked my eye out with the mascara wand, as I sometimes do. And it's like, after all this time, I'm still so clumsy, you know? So I'm just waiting for my eyeball to stop watering. But here is eye number 1 from Demo 2. We used the cream shadow to create a little more dimension on the outer corner and then apply the metallic shade on top. And here we utilize the cream shadow for a wing on the top lash line and set it with the more reddish brown matte to create a little more intensity, but without relying on just the dark brown shadow to do so. And here are both eyes. Like what you see. And here's a wide shot of both looks. Again, we have the same lip combo from the first round and same cheek products on also. And my final verdict is that this is a solid eyeshadow palette. I didn't expect anything less. Patrick Ta is very much well known for his seamless but very neutral and simple looks. They're minimalist in nature, and he's into the monochromatic thing, as you could probably suspect from this color curation. Browns, bronzes, pinky beige, peachy, very light peachy brown. And just to have an opportunity to create those monochromatic looks but with different textures, I think is what lends that creative experience for one to, sure, we've seen these colors before, but these textures, I think, make the application a lot of fun and maybe even influences you to move out of your comfort zone. If you usually just use mattes or you just use metallics, maybe you don't use the sparkly arcly shades. And I think this formula is very easy to use. If you usually have to rely on an adhesive of some sort to just ensure, especially if you have small hooded lids, that the sparkly shades don't transfer, then I would highly encourage you to do so or experiment without it. Maybe you're able to get away with just applying those iridescent shades without a glitter glue. I don't have a problem with it because I do have a lot of lid space, so I understand that, but I think it'll be nice to even experiment, if just for fun, to see how those iridescent textures look on a glitter glue. My favorite part about this palette are the cream shadows. I think they're a really nice formula to work with, and great again that we can rely on a cream contour, that we can rely on a cream formula to contour the lid with in a way that it's just not the same finish as a matte shade. I think a matte shade is beautiful, but if you want it to look more skin-like in finish without it actually being a satin, a metallic, or a sparkly shade, then relying on a cream I think is really great. And the fact that it's in the palette, in pan, really nice to use, easy to pick up with a synthetic brush or even an undyed natural hairbrush if you prefer to use that tool. And the fact that you can layer these creams over and under powder successfully without the lid looking muddy, without it looking heavy. I think the more you layer these shades and textures, as the description says, the more multidimensional your eye look will appear. And nice that you again can have that creativity, and nice that I think the palette curation and the selection of textures encourage that layering, which I think Patrick Ta wants the user to rely on in terms of technique, because that's how he applies his makeup, right? So really nice experience with this palette, and I think people who love browns and bronzes, that's like their comfort color spectrum, they're gonna love this palette. And even pros and novices alike, I think, will appreciate the colors and tones that this palette has to offer. Again, you have the cream textures in there, and the possibilities are endless in terms of how you can layer these colors and how you can layer the textures. And again, because the formulas are so seamless in execution, no matter what brush you use, no matter what your skill level is, you will have a beautiful eye look. Let me know if you picked up Major Dimension eyeshadow palette from Patrick Ta, what your experience has been. If you're holding off on it, maybe you're waiting for a sale, because I do believe this is a permanent product, so no rush at all if you're waiting it out. I totally understand. I was intrigued and wanted to get in on the fun as well, so hopefully this video helped. Thank you so much again for watching. I will see you in the comments, fam, and until then, that is alright. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you in here again with another review tutorial, eyeshadow palette extravaganza, monthly favorites, or lunchtime chit chat. Take care, and I will see you again soon.